Chapter 976. Ian waved his hand before he said, "Yes, of course. Why not? Just serve us the dish." After he was done speaking, Ian continued saying, "Oh, by the way, please bring us 2 bottles of bowed champagne." The waiter replied, "Sir, a bottle of bowed champagne is $20,000. It is also non-refundable once the bottle of champagne is opened. Is that okay?" Ian replied immediately, "Yes. Hurry up and serve it as soon as possible." When they heard that he had just ordered 2 bottles of champagne which cost $20,000 each, all of them could no longer sit still. After doing the calculation, this meal had already cost more than $60,000. Even if they would only have to pay for half of the bill for dinner tonight, wouldn't they still have to pay $30,000 then? Even if they were to split the bill equally among the rest of them, each of them would still have to pay $2,000 each. Matt Rich was a little embarrassed as he said, "Ian, we don't have to eat so extravagantly. The reason why we are having dinner with Mrs. Brown today is because we want to welcome Mrs. Brown back. Mrs. Brown has just recovered from her illness and she wouldn't be able to drink any champagne anyway, so why are we ordering 2 bottles of champagne?" Ian replied contemptuously, "Matt Rich, this is the reason why I look down on you for being poor. Why are you so afraid when we're just having a meal together?" After he was done speaking, Ian did not wait for Matt Rich to speak and he immediately told the waiter, "Bring us a plate of big grouper and also a set of 1 abalone and shark's fin for everyone." Ian hoped that he would be able to order as much as he can. If that was the case, he would be able to earn more money today. Everyone else could not help feeling a little worried because even if they were to divide the bill among themselves, each of them would also have to pay a huge sum of money for the dinner tonight. However, they were all too embarrassed to say anything at all. No one dared to say that they no longer wanted to eat this dinner anymore. After all, Mrs. Brown was still here. Mrs. Brown could no longer sit still at this time. She said nervously, "Ian, we really don't need to be so extravagant when we eat. You're ordering too many expensive dishes. I'm serious. I can feel my heart shaking simply by looking at the price of the dishes that you have ordered. Could we order some simpler and cheaper home-cooked dishes instead?" Ian was unwilling to let go of any opportunity that he could use to make more money. Therefore, he naturally would not be willing to eat just a simple meal that would only cost a few $1,000s tonight. If that was the case, he would not be able to make much money at all. So, he hurriedly said, "Mrs. Brown, you just have to relax and enjoy this meal tonight. You can count on us to treat you to this meal tonight. You were the one who raised us up. How could we ever forget your kindness? Why would it matter to us if we have to spend a little more money to treat you to a nice meal? Even if I have to pay $30, $40, or $50,000 for this meal tonight, I'll be more than willing to do so." After he was done speaking, Ian deliberately looked around the table as he looked at the expression on everyone's faces. In fact, Ian was intentionally trying to occupy the moral high ground just so he could dictate how everyone should be acting. The context was already very clear. Mrs. Brown had been so kind towards each and every one of them, so why would any one of them be unwilling to treat her to a nice dinner tonight? Sure enough, as soon as he said this, no one dared to oppose his words or express any dissatisfaction at all. Everyone could only secretly think in their hearts that since they were treating Mrs. Brown to dinner tonight, then they should just be willing to splurge a little. At this time, Alex suddenly sensed that something was amiss. Judging from how Ian had deliberately crashed his car in order not to honor his bet, he already knew that he was not a generous person. On the other hand, he was definitely a villain. If he was not a generous person, then why was he being so generous when he was ordering the dishes tonight? Would it be more advantageous for him to order the more expensive dishes? However, Ian had already said that he would have to pay half of the bill. Therefore, he would not be someone who was hired to lure customers to dine in an expensive restaurant. Then, there could only be another possibility, that Ian could claim for reimbursement for this meal. It turned out that Ian was taking advantage of everyone. If this was the case, then Alex should just beat him at his own game then. As he thought about this, Alex said, "Everyone, why don't we do this? I'll split the bill with Ian for dinner tonight. Each of us will pay for half of the bill. Even if this meal costs us $200,000, it will be split between the both of us."